Hey everyone, and welcome to The Poll, the show where we talk about the comics that came out this week. Now, you might notice that we are actually just the two of us today, and that we are a whole hour early. Well, I have a scheduling conflict, and everyone else is busy.
Yeah.
And, I think they probably all would have been busy, regardless of the timing, honestly. Because,
It was one of those weeks.
it's Benny's birthday today, so
Aw,
he gets
happy
off.
birthday.
Rob's
Shout out.
off elsewhere. Sal's sick, and Caitlin's doing other family personal things, so I will not divulge that. So it's us, but it was such a big week in comics that we were like, no, we got to do the show. The show must go on.
We're going to make it happen, even if it is the Joel and Tiff show
That's
that you
right.
all demanded.
It's funny. I remember people in the streets with pitchforks being like, "Where's the Joel and Tiff show?" And we were like, "Guys, come on, just relax."
There was a whole letter writing campaign, if I recall.
Yeah, exactly. No.
Which surprises me. People still write letters. It wasn't an email campaign. It wasn't a Twitter campaign.
No, it was with pigeons and stuff. Birds flew.
Letters
They
that they
died.
typed
They
up
died
on
for that.
typewriters.
Yeah, exactly. But okay, so because of that, it probably will be a little bit of a shorter show, even though we do have some big books. So let's just jump into it though, and just have a nice conversation about comics. Let's start off this week with Teen Titans number 8, The Lazarus Contract Part 2. Now, Joel, I know you said you were committed to reading this.
I sure am.
And how is Part 2?
It's an interesting issue. It's funny. This issue probably has more setup in it than issue 1 actually did, if you can believe it. But what kind of makes it different is the focus is shifted. Issue 1 was very focused on Deathstroke, what he was feeling, what he was doing, which is interesting because that wasn't his book, and he'll be getting a tie-in later.
Oh.
This one focused on Wally, or should I say Wally 2. This is going to get very confusing because
Okay.
we have multiple Wallys running around. It's him kind of going through his emotions and what he's feeling. Again, I haven't been reading the main Flash book, but I guess the idea is that he eventually found out who his true father was, that it was Daniel West, the New 52 Reverse Flash, who was a villain, who was evil, but who sacrificed himself quite heroically in a Suicide Squad story no one read, which is terrible because it was a great story. But he figured that out, and he was mad at Barry for lying to him, and he was further disenfranchised when he found out that Barry lied to him about there being another Wally. So much to the point when Deathstroke, master of child luring, I kid you not, he's oh my god, he sets up the most elaborate trap for Wally in this. He knows he's a gearhead and he loves cars. So it's like, oh, look, a cherry red Mustang. I can't make it to work. You young man, would you like to come into my car and help me fix it? And Wally 2 is like, I see no problem with this man with an eye patch. I'm going to help you.
So at least he upgraded from the white windowless van with candy. So
Yeah.
that's a plus. That's a new
It's a super
spin
awesome
on this.
car.
Creepy.
Yeah, Wally's kind of dumb in this issue, I hate to say, because again, it's like, look, I know you're kind of new and you haven't been a Titan for that long, but I'm pretty sure when you show up for orientation on the first day, they're like, hey, see this silver-haired looking man with the eye patch? Don't trust him.
Right, yeah.
He's bad. He's very bad. The other thing we find out is they actually give some insight into what Lazarus contract even means.
Okay.
It's
Alright.
it's a contract that came back from the dead that Deathstroke accepted. That it was null and void, but it's back now. And the contract was entered into between him, Slade Wilson, and Nightwing Dick Grayson.
Wow, really?
Yes. And Damian Wayne, who is running the Teen Titans, finds out about this after Wally got kidnapped because Wally's on his team, shows up at the other Titans tower and says, okay, Dick, we need to talk. What aren't you telling me and what aren't you telling your team? You're acting very Batman right now and I don't like it. And he's right. I'm like, yeah, that is a very Batman move. You're right.
Right, yeah, fair enough.
So they almost end up coming to blows, and in the end, we find out, Deathstroke's whole plan of like he basically Ghosts of Christmas Past Wally, where he's like, look, grab onto my icon suit so I can run with you in the Speed Force, and I will show you how fucked up my life is. Here's my son in rehab. Here's my daughter beaten up in the hospital. Here's the grave of my other kid. I just want to fix my life, and if you help me fix my life via the Speed Force, I swear I'll never kill again, and you get to hold this over the other two Flashes who lied to you if you only help me out. And Wally's like, oh, geez, man, I don't know. That's kind of, I guess, well, joke's on you. I didn't actually need your help. I just needed you to grab my suit. I stole some of your Speed Force, so now I can do it myself, idiot.
Wow.
Yeah. It's one of those stories where I'm like, so was Wally going to betray them, or was it was kind of an odd issue?
They're like, here's the thing. We don't want to answer that question, so we just left it A, very nebulous, and B, we're never going to address it probably, so...
I guess not. So at the end of the issue, Deathstroke steps out with a brand new Flash-esque costume, because he now can control a small bit of the Speed Force.
That's kind of cool.
It is. It's a cool design.
I've not been reading this, because I feel like you were kind of lukewarm on the last one, right? Like, you were...
I enjoyed it. It was a lot of setup, and even here in this second issue, I like probably the first one more, just because it's like, whoa, flashbacks to stuff that we haven't seen, mentions of characters we haven't seen before. Right. It felt like you needed 2 issues just for Deathstroke to get the Speed Force all to himself, and now the story's gonna happen.
Okay. So I guess... I mean, in a sense, that's kind of good, because maybe if you haven't really been up with the Teen Titans, like, this could be a place you could jump into it. It's always so bizarre when you have been up with something, and then they give you so much filler, you're like, yeah, I know.
I think they want this to A, read good and trade, and B, I think they want this to be a good jumping on point for people who haven't been giving the Titans universe of books a try.
Right.
Because, hey, Lazarus Contract, that's kind of like the Judas Contract. I remember reading that. Let me pick this up off the shelf.
All right. That's an interesting way for editorial to have its hand in there, and it could pay off in the end. I mean, again, if it gets more readers into Teen Titans, that could be a boon for them. Again, maybe this was one of those things that should have just been its own original graphic novel, if that's what they were looking to do.
Possibly. I know just from my own channel and just from the jump in numbers from people who are usually reading the Titans book to reading this now, there's at least 2,000 new people who are paying attention to this, being like, okay, what's going on? I want to pay attention to this.
All right. Well, that is pretty cool. So, all right, if people didn't pick up the first issue, can they pick this up and just go on with it?
I'm going to say yeah, actually. You probably can. It's so much setup in issue 2, it almost makes the setup from the first issue unnecessary, where it's like, you really could have just started here.
Okay. You know what? That's great, though, and that's kind of good to know, especially for those who haven't been picking it up, because sometimes people feel beholden to have to, no, I have to get the first one. That's awesome to know. I mean, in a sense, with a book that we will be talking about, Secret Empire, you didn't really need 0, necessarily. You could have just kind of jumped in at 1 and kept going if you wanted to. That was up to you. That was your individual choice. So there you go, guys. If you haven't picked up part 2 of the Lazarus Contract, which is Teen Titans number 8, you can go ahead and grab that and get on board and find out more about this Lazarus Contract. More about, lawyers and legal terms. That's really what it's going to turn into, guys. So just
that's all it is. It's just going to be a big court case. It's going to be Deathstroke with his new Speed Force power sitting there during litigation, and the Titans have hired the
He's got a tie on over the suit, but it's very professional.
It's funny. We know who the Marvel heroes call when they need help. They call She-Hulk or Daredevil because they're lawyers in their everyday life. Who do the DC heroes call when they need representation? Why is there no DC hero who's a lawyer?
Because they throw their problems into the sun.
Yeah, or to the Phantom Zone.
Exactly. They're like, oh, you're going to sue me? Phantom Zone.
We got lots of places to put people who threaten suing.
Yeah, and that literally sounds like the best, mob, line ever. We got lots of places to put people who cause us problems. I'm just saying.
And so many other people can fly to where it's like, Superman, we're here to serve you papers. Up and away.
Exactly. You got to find him first.
Batman, we're here to serve you papers. Oh yeah, smoke bomb.
Exactly. It's got to be hard to do that with Superman. He's just X-ray vision. Oh no, I'm not taking that. I'm not
Green Lantern will just go to space and stay there for years at a time.
exactly. And Martian Manhunter, if he were here, would just keep changing his persona. He'd be like, oh, I'm not that guy, not that guy, not that
John
guy.
Jones, never heard of him.
Yeah.
I'm Jones Johnson.
So, haha, loophole.
Do you have any Oreos for me, please?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Well, then get off my porch.
So, all right, so before we move on, though, I do want to say a big thank you to the Dominican Joker who just subscribed with Twitch Prime. It was a little while before, but I didn't want to interrupt you. You were on a great roll. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for subscribing and hanging out with us and just being here. And also, Genghis Connor, you've been subscribed for 2 months, and that's awesome. So we want to give you a big thank you for that one.
We're all aces in our book. You demand, you demand. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's it. All right, so keeping with DC, it's kind of a heavy DC set of books for us.
Yeah, I tried to insert a couple Marvels in there because of that.
I appreciate that. Superman number 23, continuing on with this insane story that seemingly doesn't actually, as it turns out, revolve around a dairy farmer, which, by the way, was kind of a funny plot point for a long while. Turns out there's a lot more going on with this, right?
A lot more. A lot more.
Right, and we actually, by the end of this, get the return of a character that we haven't seen in quite a while, at least not in this kind of form. I know he's puttering
Not
around.
as a Superman villain. This character messed with the Titans for a little bit in a crappy run no one remembers,
Right,
and they have
back in
since
the New
updated
52.
his costume. Yeah.
Yeah, but he certainly is back. But in this book, wow, there was a lot that went on in this book.
Definitely.
I'll be honest with you. It's just a really good issue of something that is not involved in a larger overarching rebirth kind of plot. It's just a crazy story that's going on with Superman right now. In which, of course, we have the townsfolk of Hamilton. A select few of them are seemingly superpowered and are revealed later on to be part of a super special team that we've seen before. And I don't know, honestly, if they're the same people, seemingly not, or they're reimaginings, or they're just a new group of people with the same name.
Well, here's the thing. It's like they were called the Elite. They call themselves the Super Elite.
Yep.
And they're new people with new powers. So clearly, mastermind behind this has fired up a new team of people. But I like all their designs. They're cool.
I did too. I thought they were really cool. Pseudo-alien-ish, or even sort of had this weird Kirby feel to them. For
New
some
gods.
reason.
Yeah.
Right? Just kind of this crazy look to them entirely, which I really appreciated because it
gets
definitely.
Even...
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say, and it gets even better because even though we're seeing them in their superpowered forms for the first time, they're people from the town that we've met all throughout Superman, so we know who they are.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I thought that was really well done. The fact that we get to see that there has always been this crazy plot going on, and we're still learning about it. There's still some key pieces of information that we're missing here, but it does surround Superboy and his future and the failure of Superman, well, at least in the eyes of a certain individual. But this issue opens with Lois confronting her dairy farmer friend. She's convinced that he, is either fake or whatever. She doesn't really know. She doesn't understand the relationship between he and his granddaughter, the relationship that he has with anyone else. The dairy farmer's like, look, you don't get it. I'm not going to hurt you. But I will.
he does a lot of that. It's like, no, I'm here to help. I'm your friend, but seriously, don't mess with me, though.
Yeah, seriously, though, I will mess you up. I will mess you up, though. But it's all about your son, okay? And we have to prepare him for the future. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's charging her bat suit or bat armor gauntlet. Yeah. She shoots at him, and immediately, by the way, you get this woman. She has no powers, right? She's got this gauntlet. This guy clearly has powers, right? She shoots him. He flies off the handle. I'm like, really?
Oh. Yeah.
Come on. Come on.
I love the characterization of Lois in this story. I really do.
I really do too. So then he starts to crush her hand. In her cry of pain, Superman, who was underground, who has discovered that crazy pod thing with all the people in it, he notices John is missing. He, of course, explains to us, which I appreciate. He's like, I can't blast these pods. I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm like, fair enough. You got a lot of technology and organic stuff going on here. Yeah, more than likely you'd probably trigger something that would not go well for anyone.
Way to look before you leap. I like that.
Exactly. I like that element to Superman. But as she's crying out in pain, he, of course, races to help her, which I think is so funny. It's like, took her crying out in pain. All the other stuff, he's like, she's got it. She's got it.
It's all good.
It's just fine. Oh, crushing her hand? No, I don't think so.
No.
I like that hand. So he, of course, he shows up, takes her to safety from the dairy farmer, who starts to explain things to Superman in a very roundabout, I can't tell you what's going on, that's not my place kind of way, where he's just like, I know what's happening, but if I tell you, someone's gonna be real mad.
Very creepy, uncanny valley type thing he's doing, isn't it?
Right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And for a minute, I really was just like, he really becomes very obvious that he's not human, but he's just so been integral into their society and their culture and their norms that, like, it's just bizarre to me that Superman, whatever they did to them, he couldn't see it. He couldn't hear it. Like, whatever's going on, I hope they have a nice explanation as to how he could have missed it.
Well, the villain we're dealing with in this situation, which again we're being very coy not to spoil, is known for amazing mental powers.
That is
so
true.
That makes sense.
That is true, and perhaps a Batman there got a little too close. But even still, you think I don't know. So,
I've been fogging your mind with the Force this whole time.
Exactly.
Palpatine was behind it all. Palpatine is the villain.
That exactly it was. And then he tells Superboy about the tragedy of dark plagueis the wise.
He basically does. It's a very similar scene where he's trying to move his morality a little bit, saying, your dad's too much of a Boy Scout, man. He won't fit in the real world, but you can be different, and we're showing you what happens when bad people do bad things.
It's true. Because Superboy is like trapped in this crazy chair contraption in front of this like wall of TVs, which I thought was funny because that is very much a la Adrian and Watchmen, yet this really has nothing to do with that. It's just like a visual cue that I was like, that's interesting. So he's got the wall of TVs and he's essentially watching all these different crazy angles, which, by the way, I always love when they do that because then I'm like, how are they getting these?
I know, right? Where are the cameras?
Where are the cameras?
Also, there looks to be editing going on. Who are editing these videos?
Exactly. Is there a delay? Of what's going on with Superman, and like past, present, future, all these things kind of going on almost simultaneously in a sense, but within a very short amount of time. Immediately, John tries to use his heat vision to destroy them and potentially get out, and he's like, "Nah, you can't. Black mirrors, we're good. You can't use that. Sorry, kid. Like." You'll find out, you look, I'm doing this whole thing, man. This is the first time really you've been, like, arched in a sense, so, like, just go along with me on the journey here.
These are the rules. Just sit in your Geiger chair.
Exactly. While Superman is confronting the farmer, essentially a monster. There's no better explanation. It's a monster shows up. Like this.
One of many monsters, which apparently the people behind this aren't also behind the monsters, which is interesting.
But like, seemingly a door opened, a doorway of some kind, or portal, or something. They kind of make mention of that. They allude to it, and like things are coming through now. So they're like these other folk are trying to stop it. Superman's involved with trying to stop it. The other people who are members of the town, are just killing these things at a turn, which, by the way, I honestly agree with them in that sense.
Yeah, the monster debate. At what do you draw the line on humanity?
Exactly. Like, I get where Superman is coming from. I definitely understand that 100%. But, like, and, like, he is in a mental state that, like, right now he's just like, everyone has to be as safe as possible, and I can't find my son, and I gotta get my wife out of here, and you people are just doing all sorts of crazy things. So, like, I definitely understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, crazy monster, crawfish, bat things, like...
Yeah, it's like, does it have a personality? Does it have a name? Those where I would start with it.
Right? Exactly.
Can it feel pain?
Yeah, that kind of thing. By the way, I thought it was funny that he has Batman, and then there is also a bat creature that shows up.
Yeah, the irony on that.
Right? And Batman's not even there to participate. Like, come on.
So unfortunate.
So Superman talks to the super elites, explains his perspective on things. They say that is not a viable way to do things. They're like, you can't just try to, like, always reason with things. You gotta get to the punch sometimes, Superman. Like, we're gonna have to take care of the problem. Like, you're not solving the problem. You're just, preventing this from happening now, something that will eventually happen.
And now the scene from a couple issues back makes a lot of sense. When John killed that monster, his dad was disappointed, but the townsfolk were like, hell yeah.
Exactly.
It was them showing their hands early on.
Yeah. They're playing the long game. I gotta give them credit for that one.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Lois doing her typical Lois thing. She not only is concerned about her son, she is still taking photos with her phone.
Yep.
Still being the reporter that she is. And this is one of the first times I've ever seen her truly be injured.
Yeah, like real bad.
Real bad! Lois's leg is cut off in this. And it, like, that blew my mind. Blew my
It's like
mind.
walk with a cane, yeah.
Yeah, just, like, it's gone. And he cauterizes it, and, like, it is intense. And John is watching this whole thing.
Yep.
So, like, I know that the villain, who we've remained as nameless right now, is looking to warp John's perspective on Superman and his ways, essentially, his
He's being the
philosophies.
devil on the shoulder.
Exactly. He's just like, man, look, if he had just taken care of all these monsters, like, this wouldn't have happened. Like,
It's a pretty good scheme. It's a pretty intricate plan, too. I like it.
yeah, right? Like, it's... I'm hoping it doesn't work. I'm hoping that John's love and connection with his parents will go
See
beyond
him
this.
through, yeah.
But we don't know that yet. We are left literally with the reveal of who the villain is, and John, seemingly unsure. You know, like, he's looking down, he's crying, he is 100% listening right now. Whether or not it'll sway him, I don't know. I don't know. But, like, I thought this was a great issue, and I literally cannot wait for the next one, because I'm like, A, are they going to give Lois a new leg? Like, what are they going to do? Like,
They'll give her a robot leg with Kryptonian technology. Ooh, or they'll take the leg from the Hellbat armor and she'll just put that on.
That would be awesome. Maybe they could regrow it. I don't know.
I'm sure it's Superman. He can do anything.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be able to circle around the Earth a couple times.
Can I say, too, and this is a very, very tiny nitpicky thing. The one thing I didn't like is actually the redesign of the mystery villain. I thought the old design was much cooler and much more striking. They make him look more like a person now. His hair's a normal color.
Well,
he's wearing a normal shirt. They've moved his big symbol to his belt buckle. And he also looks a couple years older now.
He does. He has a little bit more of a Constantine look to him.
Yeah.
In a way.
I liked the louder, weirder thing, but I know that wouldn't fly because they wanted it to be a frightening reveal, and if they show this gaudy mod of a man, it would kind of take away. It's like, who the fuck is this guy?
Well, absolutely. And I'm also wondering if, seemingly, like you said, like them making him look a little bit older, I wonder if they're going to play up that element to it. Like, perhaps he has matured since we last saw him in this incarnation. I don't know.
Also, for people who know that character and his familial history, when you look at the little girl Kathy, the gears in my head start turning at you. I'm like, wait, is she supposed to be, or is she related to, because she looks just like her?
Right? I don't know.
That would be insane. And her powers are just like his. That just hit me right now. She has all the same powers he does. In fact, she used it on Damien before.
She did.
Wow. This is a good story.
Listen, Superman has been just, I feel like, ruling DC right now for me.
As it should have been. It was weird when Superman wasn't top of the heap there for a while.
Right? So, like, for me, like, every week that it comes out, I'm just so excited. Tomasi, Gleason, they're just doing such a good job. Just, I can't wait to see where this story is gonna go. I'm just, I'm glad that we're back to this, like, we're taking a break from one of those, like, okay, this is a story that's going to change Superman forever. We did that. Now here's a Superman story. Yeah. And we're bringing something back. Like,
yep, absolutely.
And I'm like, that is awesome. And, like, we'll see, like, if this honestly, based on the fact that supposedly, when he merged, a lot of people who were close to him started to remember things the way he remembered. So I wonder what this guy remembers.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to finding out. If you haven't been reading this is kind of a rough one, I feel like, to pick up.
Yeah.
You might want to go back at least 2 issues just to catch yourselves up, but I feel like it's completely worth it because I think this is just going to be a really solid Superman story. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. I would say to truly appreciate it, go a couple back and you'll like it that much more.
There you go. Awesome. All right. So I know there's a bunch of books we're going to talk about. There's definitely 2 in particular that I think are pretty big this week. So let's talk about one of them right now. Let's do Secret Empire number 2.
Yes, I'm sure you would be pleasantly surprised because it's Sorrentino doing the art now.
Yeah, you know what? Like, just real quickly on the art, I liked elements to it, but it felt like Sorrentino was rushed.
Mm,
And that could just be there on a time. It's a lot more pages than the
they
Wolverine book.
Yeah, and they haven't been late yet. They've been on
No.
time. Although now you're hearing they broke one of their promises and like, oh, we're doing an extra issue. I know we said we wouldn't, but we are.
Exactly, exactly. So I mean, like, I feel like there were certain parts where I was like, this looks great, and there were some parts where I'm like, I think you were probably under the gun, which I get. It's a lot. It's a lot of panels. It's a lot of pages, and also, I gotta tell you, out of the gate, I was disappointed with this issue.
It is a lot of setup, is the thing, but not for the main book. It's a lot of setup for all the new tie-in books you're going to be getting. We see the formation
Right.
of Avengers Undercover. We see the formation of Avengers Uprising, and a bunch of other stuff that we're probably going to see in other stuff. In fact, I think even Zemo and the Hydra guys are going to be getting a little tie-in too. And Hydra's something or other. There's a lot of tie-ins to this.
Right, right. Well, for me, it really started with right out of the gate because Doctor Strange is on the cover.
Yeah,
He sure isn't in this book.
3 issues in, we can say unequivocally these covers are all misleading.
I hate it. And I kind of knew it going into it, but then technically Luke Cage is in it. Iron Fist is in it. Jess is in it. It's just, but no, not Doctor Strange, not Daredevil. I was like,
Yeah,
Daredevil.
funny.
I was like, yeah, fine, whatever. But come on, guys, you can't tease me with that.
Need some Strange in my life. It's funny too because one of the big aspects of this book is we finally get to see what's happening in Manhattan under the Darkhold Dome.
Yep.
Which honestly, that felt like a whole event in and of itself. That felt like Marvel's what is it, No Man's Land. We're trapped in another dimension. The darkness is going to kill us.
Yep.
Luke and Danny have to go in to get medicine to save people.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason they're not all dead yet is because Dagger of Cloak and Dagger has turned herself into an artificial sun.
Right.
And I'm like, that might be the coolest thing you've ever done.
I was gonna say, I was like, way to make that character relevant.
Just wow, she saved everybody.
Yeah, right. That's something
Everyone better
anyone's
give her
ever
a muffin
said.
basket.
Right. Yeah, but like seriously, when has anyone ever said like, and then thank God for Dagger?
Dagger saved us all, the
Yeah.
true patron saint of
Yeah.
Secret Empire, Dagger.
Exactly. No, it's just there she is doing her thing. So
They better be giving her foot rubs, and everyone better send her a muffin basket when it's all done.
right. No, but I know exactly what you mean. Where this definitely feels like this is like a sub event.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. Because like theoretically this should have been a tie-in. Like they maybe should have just made this its own book. Like when they
Yeah,
did.
Life Under the Dome or some shit.
Exactly. And I have a feeling they're probably not focusing on Strange because Strange is getting his own tie-in book.
Right, which
Yeah.
looks pretty interesting from the cover because it's him dealing with Kingpin, who we see has basically made himself the hero defender of the dome.
He has, which makes me wonder when the Kingpin book now is happening. Is it happening post? Is it happening pre?
Sal and I talked about this because on one hand he is helping people and
Yeah.
he is like, the heroes can't defend people, they're too busy trying not to die, but he's being a little brutal about it and being a little underhanded when he's like, look, when this passes, because it always passes, and when the
Yep.
dome is done, remember, the heroes of New York didn't have your back, the Kingpin had your back.
Exactly. I mean, technically, the heroes who are left in there are themselves already dealing with a number of other things, So, like, I get it, but like, I mean, they're living literally in a nightmare scenario. Like,
It's I don't know if you do this, but whenever you read stories like this, you ever wonder like, whose team would I be on? Who would I want to hang out with? In a crisis like that, you bet I'm hanging out with Kingpin. He's gonna make it out okay.
exactly. I gotta tell you, I would not want to be a part of any of these teams because clearly Doctor Strange isn't around, so I don't care at that point.
Well, I'm assuming from what we've seen, I think he's waging a magical battle
sure.
against Madam Hydra,
Yeah.
like right now, that they're just like in their meditation stances fighting each other on the astral plane.
Exactly. Again, and here's a thing that like has gotten to me before, but like where we are with Strange, he is not as strong with magic as he used to be. So like this is an odd place for me to be with him right now, where he's in this book doing all of that, and I'm like, how?
and Madam Hydra is basically playing with all the hacks turned on because
Yeah.
she didn't exist before now, and as such
Exactly.
does not have to play by the rules of magic.
Exactly. So I don't know. I'm sure. I'm hoping that the Doctor Strange tie-in will explain that. Um, so I gotta say, like for me, standout point I think was that stuff under the dome, even though he wasn't there for it. Like that, I thought was really great. I was kind of disappointed when we left, but at the same time felt like pages were being used up by this. Like it
Mm.
was this weird place where I was. I'm like, I'm enjoying this because like we get character development, we get to see how people are reacting to this. But at the same time, like I feel like we need these panel pages to actually deal with what's happening.
It hit me too. All those characters under the dome, they have no idea what's going on. They don't
Right.
know Captain America's Hydra. They don't know the American government fell. They're dealing with their own thing.
Right? Exactly.
How shocked
Exactly.
are they going to be when they come out and got to get up to speed?
And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa! Captain America was in Hydra, dude. I was busy dealing with demons, like literal demons.
Hmm. And to think too, another big part of this issue is they play the Rick Jones tape, which essentially gets them up to speed now on everything the reader has known for like a year and a half. It's a Cliff's
Exactly.
Notes version.
It is. I felt that was bizarre. But at the same time, like I think they're banking on the fact that people have not been keeping up, which I
Yeah.
appreciate to some degree. But I feel like it could have been done in a potentially more clever way,
And
or
if
in a
everyone
less.
just sitting down and reading the Cliff Notes.
Yeah, yeah. Here's the thing: I don't have an answer to that, so I don't really have a solution to that. So I really shouldn't critique that. But you know, this is for me. Like, there was that moment where I was like, "Are we really doing this again? We're really splitting everybody up again?"
Yeah, isn't that the thing? Even when the government has been toppled, even when the heroes live on the run, they still find a way to have an ideological divide that causes them to break off and go into two different paths.
Exactly. I'm like, come on. Like, we've done that every like giant event. We tend to like that's what happens. It's just
I mean, at least they're not fighting each other. They just have different ideas about how they should fight the
yet.
powers that be. Yet. Well, I mean, there's also a team of Avengers that has clearly backed Captain America either through brainwashing, blackmail, or anything like that. So heroes
Yep.
will probably fight heroes by the end of this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I
I mean, I guess it makes sense because it is kind of mirroring stuff that's happening in the real world where it's like, well, I believe we should do this. And, well, I believe we should do this. Well, we want the same thing, but, you're maybe being a little bit more aggro about it and I'm being a little bit more pacifist about it.
right?
And it makes sense, too, that Natasha would lead the aggro team and being like, look,
Yeah.
we're not heroes anymore. We're rebels. This isn't crime fighting. This is war. You got to get real, Hawkeye. The old tactics don't work anymore.
Exactly. You know what is interesting to me though is that like I completely like I understand where Natasha's coming from in a sense. Like exactly what you said. Like this is like we've already tried like 6 different things, right? But like seemingly those other ideas were like theories.
Yeah.
Right? Like the LMD theory. Like, oh well maybe that's what it is. Let's explore that. This is something where you have like, okay, this really kind of makes sense as to how this would all come together, and we have actual legitimate evidence.
Yeah, you know the truth now.
Right? Like, wouldn't you think this would be the thing? You'd be like, this is the last time, and if this doesn't work, I'm legitimately going to kill him.
Yeah, I guess she assumes it's quicker to kill him than to go on a possible suicide mission all over the world to try and gather the 7 Dragon
No,
Balls.
exactly. No, and I completely get that. But so she knows that cutting the head of Hydra does not actually stop Hydra. She recognizes that.
I didn't she say too, because now that I'm thinking about it, that it was almost like a mission of mercy thing where it's like Steve would rather die than to know that this happened to him, and I'm essentially going to put my friend down, more or less.
Right. But at the same time, we know that like a cosmic cube can seemingly undo things in a way where nobody remembers. So it's like, come on.
Yeah.
You're just looking for a reason to split these two guys up.
We need a tie-in, although I did think it's cool that her team consists of what is essentially the champions and a few others, and she's like, okay, kids, you're going to be on my team. Welcome to the Red Room.
Right? The Red Room, and at the same time, we are literally setting it up so that Spider-Man, like, the vision of Ulysses can come true. I'm like, we're going back to that? Are you kidding me?
Didn't you have nothing but disdain for that story, Nick Spencer, because you hijacked it in your tie-in?
I wonder if he's literally going out of his way to disprove it.
Oh,
Like he's
that
just
would be
like,
cool.
no, I'm gonna set it all up so that it could happen, and then be like, nah, man,
Denied.
you're so wrong.
Destiny is what we make of it. Screw you, Ulysses, and all your future vision.
Peace.
That, you know what? I bet that's how it goes down. Now that you say it, I put $5 on that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we'll
Because it
see.
would do Miles no favors as a character, honestly.
No, it really wouldn't. There's no point. However, they are setting up, depending again, because the end of this issue reveals something that is
A familiar face.
and very confusing, because it literally like unravels and yet also ties together others' theories on this, on what's going on, and it could be nothing, or it could literally be the answer to everything.
We were kicking around so many theories in the chat yesterday. Sal was, of course, very quick to say, and very rightly so, it's like, this was tacked on, 4 last pages, the art's changed.
Yeah.
Did editorial get their sticky fingers into this and say, no, we need a way out, and this is our way out? Spencer on Twitter has says this was always his plan, but is he being a good company man? Is he just towing the line? We don't know.
Right. Well, how about this? Saying this was always your plan and saying this was supposed to happen when it happened are two totally different things. Because it's potentially that this could have been what was supposed to happen, but a little later on, and editorial was like, I need you to accelerate this a little bit. And so maybe they tacked this on a little bit sooner than it should have been.
I was reminded very much of the Peter Parker ghost in Superior Spider-Man, and where Dan Slott was like, "Oh, I was actually going to get rid of him in issue 4, but they made me keep him around a little longer, and then I brought him back to get rid of him again, just because I wanted another red herring." I wonder, is that what this is? Is Nick Spencer pulling a Dan Slott here?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the other thing too is, it's like I said, like Sorrentino's art through this seems rushed at times. So I'm wondering if they started falling behind. If Sorrentino was like, I can't keep up with this. And so if they decided to change up the script at the last minute, they were like, we're going to have to get someone else to do this because you're already unable to keep up the pace.
Definitely.
So that could be another thing. Like, so it could be an editorial thing. It could literally be artists couldn't keep up with it. It could have literally been like, I just want this to look like this. I want it to be different.
Although I will say I'm more fascinated now than ever because we kicked around so many great ideas and theories in the chat the other day. Maybe it's another Ultimate Universe refugee. Maybe it's a clone. Maybe it's tied to this Rick Remender story. You know, maybe it's this, that, and the other. And all of them are perfectly valid.
Maybe it's time travel. I know you love time travel, Joel.
They sure do. It's funny, you know, I went on that Avengers time travel thing so much. I wish I could have talked about the previous issue because it was so much better and had no time travel.
Nope, it's over. Now it's just time travel. That's it. That's all I know of it now. That's it. I can't accept anything else.
Kang babies. Right?
Yeah. So like I'm wondering just simply based on Alfred alone if time travel is involved. There's another potential reason for an art change, and this is just me going out on a limb here. It is could be that they wanted an art change to show us that this is in a different place.
Right.
You know what I mean? To separate worlds in a sense.
He says he's back and looking for home, but we don't know where home is or even where we are.
Right, exactly. And again, that's me definitely going out on a limb. It's just another idea of why sometimes they do art shifts.
To further strengthen your theory here, the villains you were fighting don't look like that anymore.
Oh.
They've undergone some costume redesigns because in the Nick Spencer, Sam Wilson cap, they became like a group of corporate raiders and corporate supervillains, and they didn't look like that anymore.
Right. So I wonder if this is if he's stuck somewhere.
Interesting.
So
is this him stuck inside his own mind essentially, and I need to get home? Is he being metaphorical? I need to get back to myself?
Like maybe it's a superior Spider-Man kind of thing.
Right, because also, as we saw with Kobik in the Thunderbolt time when she tried to turn Bucky to the side of Hydra, she took him on a tour of his own mind and his own history, only with the caveat being, hail Hydra and you'll get to live. But he opted not to do it. Is this what happened to him as well? We just never saw it?
Right? I don't know. I don't
You're
know.
blowing my mind here, Tip. You're blowing my mind.
Well, there you go, guys. So Secret Empire #2. It's a lot of book. I gotta tell
Yes.
you, every one of these, while this one was a little bit shorter than the previous ones, and just a few pages shorter, really, you get a lot of story here. I have
Ton
not
to chew on.
exactly, and I have not really been reading the tie-ins, and so far I don't.
There hasn't been many.
Right, exactly. So that's good. But as of yet, I don't feel like I'm missing any pieces that are pieces that I shouldn't be missing. You know what I mean? Clearly, like, we're leaving breadcrumbs to things. So, like, of course, there's going to be things that I'm missing because they've been revealed.
I think two came out this week. I think Ultimate's got a tie-in, which I can only assume deals with them in space because they're the cosmic heroes.
Exactly.
And USA Avengers, which I have no idea what that's dealing with. I know AIM and DaCosta's organization got swallowed up by Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D., so I guess it's what they're doing now. We haven't seen them yet. They're not on any of the Rebel teams.
Right. So, for me, like, I'm going to attempt... All right, here's the thing. I'm going to attempt, but I'm going to read the Doctor Strange tie-in because I'm reading Doctor Strange, and that's just going to happen regardless. But I'm really going to try to read this event without the tie-ins just to see how I come out of it.
Definitely.
Comparatively to those who are reading all of the tie-ins, just to have another perspective, honestly, and also to be great because you guys can fill me in. But I'd like to know what it's like, and like
totally,
because usually, like for the shows, we sometimes will have to do the tie-ins.
I'm going to challenge myself to try and read all the tie-ins, which I normally do for every event. Right. Civil War II broke me to where I'm like, I don't care anymore. But this one, they seem to be enough interesting setups for a lot of these, and there's less than Civil War II as well.
Exactly. I feel like this this event so far, it's fine. Like it's slowly like picking up steam. There's
a vision and a direction going on, which I appreciate.
Yeah, exactly. I never know if I can recommend event books like this because here's the thing: at the end of the day, when this is all said and done, that's when we're going to truly know whether or not
it's true.
It's worth it or not.
Really true.
Right now, like Zero and issue 1, I was reading them because we had to read them, but I wasn't really invested. This is the first issue where I started to feel a little more like, okay, I'm like, you have my interest now.
You have my attention, sir. Now you have my interest.
That's exactly it. I am completely candy right now. Look, if you're reading this book and you have been, definitely keep going with it. You know, you're clearly on board for it. If you haven't been reading this book, I don't know if this is one of those things to wait for the trade. Clearly, it's going to finish. This isn't going to stop it from coming out if you don't read these issues. But I think
it's very much you're either in or out at this point.
That's kind of it, guys. But we'll still keep covering it here and always talking about it for every time it comes out. So you can always check it out here on the Pull. All right, so let's get away from events for the time being and go do something that's kind of a palate cleanser for a mini thing that happened over in DC and talk about Batman #23.
Yes. What a wonderful palate cleanser this was.
Right? Oh my god, I enjoyed this.
Tom King, I think I know your thing now. You should only write weirdos like The Vision and like Mr. Miracle and like Swamp Thing.
Yep. Absolutely. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. I know Sal on Twitter said that I would probably enjoy this. He was right. It was funny because I was like, oh, did you say for these reasons? And he was just like, well, for one of those reasons. He didn't realize the other reason was a thing even, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Yeah. Joel, you want to summarize what kind of goes on in this?
Sure. We can both take turns on this one. So it's a murder in Gotham. Must be a Wednesday.
Ooh. Yeah, exactly.
Gordon and Batman get called in to solve it, only we find out this dude has a certain familial connection to a one Alec Holland, a.k.a. Swamp Thing. And I'm sure you picked up on this, too. This guy looked exactly like Alan Moore.
Yeah, he really did. Like, in a hilarious way. Because, yeah.
he was even talking a bit like Alan Moore there when he was saying the poem over and over again that underlines
especially when I read it in my head like that.
You know, the greatest conspiracy in life is that there are no conspiracies in life.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I thought that was an interesting choice that was made.
Oh, it was so intentional, you could tell. So, yeah. The Swamp Thing helps Batman out on the case, which means we get some wonderfully mismatched buddy cop shenanigans. My favorite panel is Swamp Thing coming to the manor for tea. Bruce is just sitting there as Bruce, and Alfred is trying to clean up the mess that Swamp Thing keeps leaving behind him.
Yeah. For me, it was when he arrives and Gordon's dealing with him. It's like, he has, of course, the result of the reaction anyone would have, and where it was just like, no, seriously, are you seeing this, Batman? Like, serious? Literally, there's a bush behind me and it's talking to us.
And he does the shaky smoke lighting thing too.
Yep, exactly. And he's just like, all right, I guess we're all just moving on. Here, thanks.
And Batman calls him Alec too. He's like, oh, hey, Alec, what's up?
Exactly.
Not Swamp Thing, not Mr. Thing, not even just, hey, Gordon, this is my buddy Alec.
Yeah, no, there's no introductions. Gordon's just like, seemingly Gordon just must go, I'm gonna go ask, clearly you got this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go have...
This is above my pay grade, and I was Batman for a bit.
Exactly, and I'm done. I didn't see it. No, this is too much.
And really, the big theme of this issue is life and death, which is fitting because that's all in Swamp Thing. And they build this beautiful dichotomy between Bruce and Batman. Batman, who is defined so much by the death of his loved ones all around him, and that's his drive, that's his focus, and it's also the thing that will forever bring him down. Swamp Thing is a little bit more zen and a little bit more cosmic, at first at least, where he's like, hey man, I'm the green, I'm one with everything, nothing ever truly dies, we just return to the soil to be repurposed and we're back again.
Yep.
There is no death, Batman, there's only falling back into the light. And Batman's like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah, that's it. And here's the thing, though. Like, for a minute, though, later on in this, like, Batman has legitimate hope from Swamp Thing, which I was really kind of blown away by, but, like, I liked it, because Batman doesn't usually show that side, but, like, in anything that has to deal with familiar relations, I feel like that is what undercuts him.
Yeah, you rarely see him get comforted by anyone or anything, and to think Swamp Thing is the thing to comfort Batman.
Exactly. But of course, before we even get there, like you said, they go on this whole like buddy cop investigation where they do like the Law and Order, like person to person to person.
Yeah,
well, let's start, of course, with Kite Man because it's Tom
Kite
King.
Man, hell yeah. Does Tom King love Kite Man or something?
I don't know if he loves him
up.
or he hates him and is just mocking him mercilessly. I don't know. It's like...
Either way, I love it because he has a great new redesign, and the fact that he speaks like such a weirdo.
Right. So, of course, Kite Man leads them to what looks like Guy Fieri.
It was totally Guy Fieri. It was undeniably Guy Fieri, who owns a pawn shop in Gotham.
Right? So it's like, okay, welcome to pawn shops, Gotham, and I sell
dives.
Oh
man, now let me tell you right now, that gun he bought, that was downtown Flavortown is what that was.
Exactly.
You could serve that weapon on a flip-flop, Batman.
Right, and he takes a big, horrible bite out of it. But of course, we just go from person to person to person, and finally are led to our actual villain, Joel.
It was Headhunter. Oh my god, I love Headhunter so much. He's maybe been in like 4 stories, but he lives on through writers who, like me, clearly think, dude, that guy's an awesome design. Why don't they bring him back in more?
Right,
and
he looks like Storm. Like, he looks like he was cosplaying as Apocalyptic Storm. I was like, what are you doing, man?
He is a wonderfully stupid design. So 70s, and they don't change him at all for this. They don't update his costume in the slightest. And he's such an idiot. Like, his one big story is like, there's some, new hitman gunning for Detective Gordon, and only Batman can help him. And it's like a 2-issue, and he beats him, and then he's like never seen again.
Right.
And yet here in this issue, Tom King's like, no, he's actually quite deep and quite eloquent and is a lover of art.
And this was the other thing that I thought that was the reason that Sal would think that I liked this, because I actually like the works of Joseph Turner. So when that came up, I was like, oh, I get it. He's like, I didn't know that. I'm like,
so Tom King wrote this book solely for you, is what you're saying.
I swear to God. Now, I'm just going to take a quick detour, because I thought Joseph Turner being selected was a excellent choice, especially in this book, because Joseph Turner was, of course, a romantic artist who loved the sublime. And when I say the sublime, of course, I mean the awe-inspiring fear and appreciation of the power of nature.
Sounds a lot like the Green, doesn't it?
Right? So I was like, that is brilliant. It's
And
so
we know
good.
people over the years have been touched by the green. Was Joseph Turner a champion of the green at some point?
I don't know. And the story he tells in there is actually something that is written as an account that happened to Turner. Like, he legitimately did that. He wanted to understand nature, and he wanted to understand the power of a storm, and essentially, like, he was... This painting itself, when it came out, critics were like, this is stupid, and it just looks like, like wash suds, essentially, that kind of thing. And he's just like, you just don't get it. Like, you don't understand, because you don't understand the power of nature. So, like, I was like, you got Swamp Thing, life, death, Tom King, immediately get me right back in. Like,
I am so stoked for his Miracle Man now, because I'm like, if you can bring what you brought to Swamp Thing to Miracle Man, yet another guy, or not, Mr. Miracle, sorry, who's another dude who's such a weirdo, I think you could make a really great book out of that.
Right? Exactly. So, like, obviously, we get this fantastic moment where Headhunter is just explaining the piece, he's explaining the whole thing, and, like, it's this, like, incredible moment where part of me imagine Headhunter was being played by Kevin Spacey, because first of all, that scene in the beginning where they're talking about Swamp Thing's dad essentially being like the perfect tenant, I was like, that is just out of Seven though, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah, absolutely. Oh, it was totally the apartment from Seven.
Exactly, except I know that kind of thing happens a lot, where like older people will die of natural causes and people don't realize it happened until they start to smell something. So, like, I get it, like, that happens.
So that means for this story, Batman and Swamp Thing were Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt for
That's
the whole thing.
pretty much what they were in the end.
Damn.
But for me, like, Headhunter becomes like this Kevin Spacey-esque character where he's just very calmly explaining everything. He's explaining the meaning behind the painting. He's explaining how he met Swamp Thing's father, and he just explains how he killed him. And he's just like,
and what was Headhunter's sin? What did he want? He wanted the story, was what he wanted.
Exactly. So, and of course, Swamp Thing immediately becomes Wrath and kills him. Now, it's so funny because it's like you just hear Batman trying to stop him, but like only through words. And I don't know if that's because there's a part of Batman that was okay with it happening. Because and that's me out on a limb because there's no real explanation.
That makes sense. That fits very much with Tom King's interpretation of Batman, which is Batman's kind of shit though, and he's a giant ass hypocrite.
Right? Well, I was thinking more or less like he's like, I don't get to have vengeance, but he can.
I won't deny you yours.
Yeah, but then I'll just get mad at you afterwards.
Yeah, which is, not only does he get mad, he gets truly disappointed and heartbroken where it's like, wait, so you mean to tell me you're not this one with the earth Zen guy, you're as human as my parents aren't falling back into the light? And Swamp Thing's like, bye. And Batman's like, don't you walk away from me.
You just tell, I need to know. I have to know. Like, he has like an existential crisis. But at the same time, it could just also be that Batman's like, I don't really know, like, I know how to stop Swamp Thing, but I'm not 100% prepared to do that right now.
He is a god. He is an elemental. I'm sure he'd have to go back to the cave, open the book, be like, how to kill Swamp Thing. Yeah. I have it somewhere.
Exactly. Very brutal ending to Headhunter.
Unapologetic. And I'm just like, man, I'm so excited. One of my favorite D-listers is Bat, and he's gone.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, what a way to go. Like,
pretty baller.
He doesn't die off page. He doesn't just, like, die meaninglessly. Like, he has a legitimate, like, moment for himself. He's his moment in the sun, essentially.
Yeah. And everyone comes back from the dead anyway. He'll be resurrected as a zombie or something.
Right, exactly. But I felt like this was a very nice palate cleanser between The Button and what's coming next.
Really good palate cleanser.
It's just a really solid way to let us know, like, hey, we're done with that for now, and we're gonna move on.
And the title of the story was called The Brave and the Mold.
I know. Come on, guys. That's hilarious. Also, nice. I liked a lot of the fact that the artist did everything. They did pencils, inks, colors. Mitch Gerards did all of it. So, like, it's very
pretty looking.
Cohesive, yeah. And also, I like the whole film, like, intervals.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice.
I thought it was kind of cool just because, like, again, this is one of those things that's definitely indicating to you, this is a one-shot, guys. Like, here you go.
It's very Fargo. It reminds me of what Christopher Priest is doing right now with Deathstroke, where it's like, oh, we're showing you all these events out of order.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, just overall, kind of a fun issue. Like, this is one of those things, like, if you haven't been reading Batman, you could literally pick this up and not pick
Oh
up
yeah.
any other Batman book ever again.
If I ever do One Shot Theater, which is a show I had in the back of my head, this is definitely one of them. And hey,
Yeah.
here's a beginning, middle, and end. You don't need to know anything else, and it's great.
It's exactly it. Like, I tend to like those stories. Again, also, in between arcs, I think it's nice. It helps, I think, to be like, okay, this is relaxing, cool, all right. Like, if you grab this, you grab this. If you don't, you don't.
I like we say relaxing, even though this is probably one of the most feel-bad Batman stories in a long time. It's like people say it's the feel-good story of the summer. This is the feel-bad story of the week, but man, is it good.
It was great. I really enjoyed it. So I would recommend you pick it up just because, it's got awesome art in there, not only in the pages, but actual classical romanticism done by Turner, and it's just a really good story.
Yeah.
And Swamp Thing.
It's like you read stuff like this, it's like, why does Swamp Thing not have a book anymore when you can tell such interesting, compelling stories with this guy?
They're like, because we need Batman.
His stock kind of comes and goes, doesn't it? Swamp Thing is a roller coaster. He had 50 issues in another time, then a miniseries, then nothing for all of Rebirth.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on from Batman Swamp Thing, and just really briefly, let's talk about Luke Cage #1.
Yeah. I of course have been carrying a major torch for both Luke Cage and Danny Rand. I loved Power Man and Iron Fist, which is sadly not with us anymore. If you read nothing else, Tiff, you have to read the last arc because the villain of the Runaways shows up in Harlem and tries to recruit a new pride.
Oh, that's awesome. That is all right. I'll check that out.
Check out that last volume. You will love it. I'm sitting there reading. I'm like, man, Tiffany would be all about this.
All right, I'll check that out. I definitely will.
Now, that book was written by David F. Walker. This is also written by David F. Walker. Wonderful man. I actually got to talk to him for like 20 minutes in Seattle. He actually told me a lot of what was going on in this book. Mm-hmm. You get your cake and eat it too with this, because on one hand, it's a back to basics Luke Cage detective solving crimes, beating up people who need to get beaten up sort of story in the beginning. And then he kind of twists it and it's like, okay, but for those of you who only know him from the Netflix show and are only picking it up from this, let me kind of work on one of these. So the doctor who did the experiments on Luke Cage in prison, Dr. Noah Bernstein, he's died.
Okay.
And Luke got invited to the funeral in New Orleans. And, he feels kind of weird about it. He's like, well, I guess I should go. I wouldn't have been able to save all these people if I didn't have bulletproof skin. So I'll go and, pay my respects to the dude and everything. And he meets his extended family. And he meets a bunch of other people that his research helped. And people are all in love with Luke Cage because they're like, oh, thank you. If it wasn't for, the doctor's experiments with you, my kid's MS never would have gotten cured.
Okay.
And everything. And Luke's like, oh, that's great and everything. He's sitting down and he's hanging out with them. And it's actually very much like that movie Get Out, because it starts to get a little bit more and more uncomfortable. And they're like, yeah, the doctor did great work. He helped all sorts of people. And now that he's not here, we're hoping you'll help continue his work, Luke. And Luke's like, I should leave now. I am in a creepy manor house in New Orleans swamps. I would like to leave this place.
You're also like, hey, there's a big difference between a guy who's actually, like, capable of doing scientific experiments and, like, me who had them done. Like, I don't know if you know that knowledge does not carry like that.
Yeah, it really does. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'm getting the hell out of here now. And he ends up getting run off the road by a bunch of dudes in masks, one of whom is strong enough to actually knock him around.
Wow.
He also has a blade on him that can actually cut him.
Oh.
And Luke's like, this is bad. This is very bad. This does not happen to me. I've been hit by the Hulk. I've been hit by Juggernaut and Magneto. This guy should not be able to hurt me.
Right.
And then he is saved at the final moment by the most unexpected person. He is saved by Mitchell Tanner. Now, do you know who that guy is?
I don't know who that is. Who is that?
He is better known by his absolutely terrible super villain anti-hero named Warhawk. But he is the first person to undergo the procedure that would give Luke Cage his powers.
Gotcha.
He was a 70s Iron Fist villain. He was a 70s Luke Cage villain. He actually picks him up and saves him and says, don't die on me yet, brother. We still have much to do.
Yeah. So are they set? It's almost like they're setting up like a weird horror movie.
It really was. It was Luke Cage in a backwoods horror movie in New Orleans, and I'm like, I'm all about this.
That
I like
sounds
this.
awesome. Also, if I were Luke Cage and weren't dying, I'd be like, dude, I gotta get that knife. I got a nurse friend who I need to give that to just in case.
Yeah. Best part too about Warhawk showing up in here, they don't have him wear his stupid costume. Warhawk, look it up, everyone. He has one of the worst costumes ever. It's a red onesie with cut off sleeves, two swords pointing down on the side, and a belt buckle that's literally just the Punisher skull.
Huh.
Yeah. It's a really ugly costume.
Big fan?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of Luke Cage or if you just know him from the Netflix show, I think this will be pleasantly surprising to everyone because Walker does a little bit of everything in here, and he
Right.
does it well. And I want this book to be supported and do well because I love Walker, but he rarely ever gets more than a volume out of his stuff. And in fact, when I talked to him at Seattle, he's like, yeah, I know. That's how the game is played. My hope is that if I do good work on this, it'll lead to the next thing and the next thing. And if I plant some seeds in this book, maybe I can harvest them in another book, make people go back and read it. And I'm like, that's a very good philosophy, sir.
Well, I gotta tell you, the horror element to it makes me really interested in it.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because knowing the Defenders are coming out, they're just like, I don't care, we're doing a Luke Cage book the way we want to do it. So like
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
Luke even refers to Tanner as like, and I saw a ghost from my past. Because yeah, I assumed he was dead for the longest time.
Right,
So yeah.
right,
So maybe
right.
maybe he is a ghost. I know you've joked before in past, like, is it a ghost? Is it a zombie?
Yeah.
For this book, yeah, maybe.
I should have said that.
We'll have to read issue 2 to find out, but maybe.
Exactly. All right. So do you recommend it?
Yes, absolutely. If you're a Luke Cage fan, especially if you were disappointed by the cancellation of Power Man and Iron Fist, but still want to get some Luke Cage goodness, and if you were disappointed by the Iron Fist comic because it went too hard to try and be the TV show, this one strikes a very nice balance.
All right. There you go. That's kind of cool. Hopefully it'll do well. We'll see. I mean, it's interesting they're introducing all these new books in a sense, like here and there. You keep seeing number ones when they're talking about changing things up.
We're changing everything.
So
We're
it's
going
like,
back.
what are you doing here?
Like,
So-
again, like here's the thing too. Like, we talked about this on the weekly poll this week. So many good books that could be amazing runs and could lead to something awesome keep getting buried under the avalanche of everything else. This is another gem where I'm like, why aren't more people reading this?
Right, right. All right, so there you go, guys. Check it out and help support the book because, you know, if anyone's looking for something good from Marvel, Joel likes this one, so go check it out, guys, honestly.
The chat was asking me about Cage. Yes, Cage by Gendy Tartakovsky was really funny and really good.
He's all over the place right now.
He is. Oh man, Samurai Jack, that's an Elseworld exchange we gotta do.
That, I cannot believe they're on the last episode.
I know.
I'm like, nah, man. Not ready. Not ready. I thought
Can't let it go. I couldn't let it go for the 10 years it was off TV.
I know. Well, I wanted his ending, and now that it's here, I'm not ready for it. But anyway, we're getting off topic. All right, so we got 2 more books, guys. You know, one of them's going to be an indie book. So obviously, you know that the other book will be Flash number 22, The Button, Part 4. This concludes The Button and the mystery thereof. Before we even go into it, what are your feelings about it?
You know, I enjoyed it, but I understand what a lot of people in my comment sections were saying, where it's like, well, that wasn't really an ending. That was kind of more questions. This ended up being more of a bridge from DC Universe Rebirth Doomsday Clock. And I'm like, yeah, it was. But we had fun along the way, didn't we?
Right? No, I mean, I know when we were talking earlier on, we all kind of had the feeling this might just be one of those things that it was just like hey, don't worry, we know that Rebirth's still going on, but this is just a teaser, you know, like here's a little something, here's some breadcrumbs, you know what I mean? Like, let's deal with some stuff. Overall, like, it did a lot and it didn't do anything.
It did, didn't it? That's when we sit back and look at these 4 issues where it's like, man, you know, they brought Batman and Barry closer together and really, you know, showed that, hey, we're friends, but we're friends in a different way that, like, Batman is with Superman.
Exactly.
They, of course, brought back Jay Garrick, and that's not a spoiler. He's on the goddamn cover and the variant cover and in everything else. They wanted you to know he's back, and yet he does not stay.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I got to tell you, there's a moment with Jay Garrick there where he says they took everything from me, and I was just like, oh, I see. It's not actually Dr. Manhattan. It's either the man with the mechanical arm from The Fugitive or Dr. Nichols from The Fugitive, who, of course, was trying to push through RDU 90 so the Devil McGregor could have Provasic.
And then Batman's like, I don't care.
Exactly. So, and then they
Fugitive jokes. We got him on the pole.
Exactly. Then they did a Peter Pan out of the time stream.
Oh, not just a time stream. They call it hyper time in this issue, which is a phrase we have not heard in many, many years at DC.
Right?
Hypertime is an amazing concept. I don't know why they ever junked it, and I can see why Jeff Johns is such a fan of it, because they're like, yeah, man, time is like a river, man. It breaks off into different tributaries, it pools. Sometimes it, comes back around in the tide, and you'll remember a friend or a situation you haven't thought of in decades. And I'm like, that's what comics should be, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. It's funny. There was a moment where I was like, are they going to let Garrick stay?
And they didn't.
They did not. And I know, and we all know that, but there was literally a moment I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. That's another Flash in this universe. What are they going to do with all these Flashes? And nope.
I like the reasoning they give. Barry says, I was not his lightning rod the way I was Wally's lightning rod. And I think we know, because he got shown in another issue, it's Johnny Thunder of the JSA. He needs to find Jay. Jay needs to latch onto him because he's the last living surviving member of the JSA, and that will anchor him into the universe. For the JSA book, when it happens. They promised it at the beginning of DC Rebirth. They teased it here, but it hasn't happened yet.
I know. And here's what's funny about DC. I mentioned the long game before. We're talking about Superman and the people of Hamilton. But DC is truly playing the long game with us.
Oh, yeah.
And they're doing it in such a way that I don't think anyone's truly angry by this.
No, they make you want for it. Their promise is look, we'll get to it eventually.
Well, in a time where the journey is ruined often by the desire to know, DC has somehow managed to drag the journey out a bit. And by drag, I mean just extend it and force us to just enjoy it.
I think you hit the nail right on the fucking head with that one right there. It's the journey to know that is the fun part. And in this one, it's the realization of, yes, everything you thought you knew was actually correct as the reader, even though, as the reader, we still have more information that Batman and Barry do at the end of this story.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. And I mean, here's the thing. By the end of this, it's, we see the thing that everyone thought was going on.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, I don't want to say anything. By now you probably have. But if you haven't, it definitely confirms certain things that are happening, which is nice.
Great quotes.
To do. It's nice of them to give us that little breadcrumb because, we've ping-ponged back and forth, So, again, I DC, thank you. Because I know, of course, you're watching this, right?
I mean, obviously.
Obviously.
We're a fan-nominated, award-winning podcast.
Exactly. But they don't give us so much that A, they couldn't change something, and B, they couldn't have written themselves into another way to address that. And also, they haven't given us so much that we can unravel the entire plot from this.
They are very subtle and reserved with this, which I respect when you have such a huge bombshell as the Watchmen and the very nature of the DC universe.
Exactly.
Even me, I'd be like, no, let's do it now. Let's throw it down now. But Jeff Johns is like, no, patience, my son.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. On the one hand, there's the philosophy of, give them everything. You see movie trailers where, by the time the movie comes out, you almost know everything that's going on, right? There is something to the art of a mystery.
All good things to those who wait.
Exactly. And I know the fear comes from, will the payoff warrant it, And I think people fear that because it's I dragged these people through this whole thing, and then at the end, they didn't like what they got. So I'm hoping that they have the confidence in the story they're telling, and that's why they're
Mm.
doing this. You know, they're like, no, trust me. By the end, you're going to be talking about this for years to come.
Oh yeah.
Talking about what we did, talking about the way in which we did it. You're going to question the way we tell stories from now on simply because of what we've done here. And this is a great example because so much emphasis was put on a pin.
Yeah.
And a lot of that emphasis was put on by DC, but more emphasis was put on it by the community as a whole. You know, so like this becomes this whole like very interactive journey that we're going on.
What does it mean, Basil? What does it all mean?
Yeah. Exactly. But like by the end of this issue, like for a second I was like, do I feel cheated? And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't feel cheated. Like
I agree.
there was a moment where I thought like as we're coming to the end, I was like, that's it? And I'm like, you know what? That's enough.
It gave me everything I wanted. It may not have given me anything extra on top of it, but it still gave me everything I wanted and everything we all basically predicted too.
Yeah, exactly. But like, how fun was it? Like, okay, so now there's going to be less hypothesizing about this God character.
We know the name of God.
Exactly, which was the name we all started with, but wasn't it fun to like come up with either ridiculous or actually plausible ideas on who it was? Like, that was fun. Right, wrong, it was just a really fun thought exercise.
And now Batman and Flash have to think too, where they're like, okay, we know who our enemy is. 'Tis not an old god, 'tis not a new god, 'tis the god.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, not only are we dealing with like the idea of like God and creation and life, but we in this issue are seemingly seeing potentially the death of Batman, but maybe not because...
Yeah, I wonder how they're going to handle that. I know War of Jokes and Riddles is coming out. I wonder if the lead into that is Batman being like, okay, I'm going to take some time off, but enjoy this flashback story.
Right, exactly. So that could be seemingly where that's going. I mean, I know that was part of the whole, like, Tom King, I Am Gotham, like, from the get-go. They're like...
Batman will die, but it's a metaphorical death instead of a literal one.
But who knows? We don't really know. They leave it very ambiguous, which I appreciate because it's a Flash book. This is not where that decision should be made, but I liked it being nebulous. I like it keeping on the end of the edge of your seat, especially with Batman having coming out this week and being essentially this palate cleanser that's not tied into this right now. This could happen at any point in time. Like, that story with Swamp Thing could have been prior to the button, could go on after the button. You know what I mean? Like, that could be any.
Definitely.
It doesn't matter. That's not the issue we're going to address. Batman thinking about what happened to him on his journey through time, essentially. So, good on you guys, because, you know, I think Williamson knows, like, I'm not doing that in my Flash book. You'll be too mad.
You showed much restraint, and I appreciate that.
Exactly. And it's funny. So the answer to the question that is very, like, again, something that we all were fairly aware of the answer to is who is God, right?
Yeah.
They've left
God is a watchmaker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really, he is.
We are all puppets on strings. I can just see mine.
Yeah. That was so nice to read again. And again, we go back to that. The closer we get to the end of the book, we go back to that nice Watchmen panel layout there.
Great use of fonts too. Wouldn't you agree? I loved the use of font for epilogue. It's like, hey, in case you don't know, we're using the frickin' font now.
Exactly. Hey guys, look, if you've been asleep for the past few pages, wake up. I don't remember what I was saying.
The layouts you liked.
Oh yeah, I like the layouts. I like the fact that like every time we deal with something that is strictly Watchmen related, that we go back to those Watchmen grid layouts. Oh yeah, I was saying about how like we answered the question of who God is, which was something we all kind of knew. So them revealing it wasn't revealing anything, like in a sense, which I was like, but so brilliant. You literally showed us part of how you were doing the magic trick, but we already knew that it was like something that wasn't real magic. We already knew that, and yet you showed us that. But you're not showing us how you're doing it. So, and by that I mean like we still don't know who Mr. Oz is, and that's true. That's the one where people are like, that could be. There's so many different people it could honestly be.
Yeah, and now with the what is it? We now know it can't be the other person. It's got to be someone else.
Exactly, it's true. But there's still a list of people that people are unsure of who that could be, and I feel like that is going to be the bigger reveal
Yeah.
between those two, like, who God was and who Mr. Oz is. Like, that's gonna be
And
the one.
clearly a very closely guarded secret too, because even in some leaks and some other stuff that came out recently that it ended up being correct, no one has a beat on who Mr. Oz
Right?
is.
So, like, I think at the end of the day, yes, I know we're supposed to be talking about what happened in the end of the button, but, like, honestly, like, this, I feel like, is just a love letter to DC's commitment to us, to telling us this story in the time that they want to tell it to us in.
Yep.
And I think that I can appreciate that, and I truly, like, I'm in love with that. Like, honestly, like, it's so refreshing.
And now we all wait for Doomsday Clock.
I know it was December.
Something like that. Don't you love the artwork they showed for Doomsday Clock? It's the yellow Watchman clock, but midnight is the Superman
I know.
symbol.
All they have to do is drop these little hints, and, like, it's not enough for really anything to, like, be revealed, but, like, it's enough to get us all talking. And, like, it's interesting because I know they're really doing it for their sales, and they're really doing it to make sure you're paying attention to what's going on in DC. Oh, sorry, people are saying November. It's 1 month off. Jesus. but like, honestly, like, this is great. I feel like in the spirit of community and community building, because it allows people to start theorizing about things. And again, like, it's not about being right or wrong. It's just really about talking. And I feel like it's more about, like, the thought of things.
And just like I was gonna say, and just the gravity of it too. They brought the Watchmen into the DC universe, and it doesn't feel forced or stupid.
Yep.
It's actually working.
Yep. No, it's true. It's very true. So, overall, at the end of the day, the button didn't do as much as I think some people were hoping it would have. But I think it did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So figure out what that meant that I just said.
Button. Who's got the button? It wasn't Thawne.
Exactly. It was. Well, it was for a little bit, and then that didn't really work out so much.
Apparently, Thawne's coming back in, like, a new Flash arc, to where I'm like, man, you just can't kill this guy, can you?
I told you, as soon as you introduce time travel, it doesn't matter.
I loved Thawne's reasoning for traveling back to the moment of creation to see the face of God. He's like, man, you broke my neck one time back in the 80s. Bruce's dad stabbed me with a sword. I'm a walking, talking time paradox. Nothing I do matters in the great cosmic scheme of things. Why not see the face of God just to say I did?
Right, exactly. But it's like, dude, nah, man. No.
It's a bad scene, man.
Exactly.
You will see things that cannot be unseen.
Literally.
And the fact that he got apologetic, I love that. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, please don't. A man who's never apologized for anything ever.
Well, you would think that, like, the seeing God would be humbling, right? It seems like it would be a big deal.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the next book, first of all, if you didn't read the button, this is not the issue to pick up.
Yo.
So if you wanted to do that, you have to go back and collect the 2 issues of Batman and 2 issues of Flash to make this all work for you. I'm sure they'll put this. I don't know how they're going to put this one together.
Yeah, that's where. Are they going to collect it? Both issues in Batman and Flash's next volume, or is it going to get its own little thing? I don't know.
So you may want to go back. Again, you can check it out. I'm sure your local comic book store has plenty of copies of the actual individual issues, or you can go on to someplace like Comixology or wherever like that and pick it up there. Check it out. Again, this isn't going to answer all your questions, but it is. It's a fun read. It's very interesting and very thought-provoking, I think.
People in the chat are being funny now. They're saying God is actually a future time remnant of Barry. No, you leave season 3 of Flash out of this.
They're like, nope.
This isn't disappointing. I'm enjoying the button. I'm not watching it because I have to. Right.
This is where we're gonna have people crawling out of the woodwork, be like, look, all we saw was a blue hand. That could be anything. Be like, you gonna tell me it's Yondu from the Marvel universe?
Oh man. Could be the Kool-Aid man. He's just covered in blue now instead of red.
Right. Yeah, no, he's just filled with a different flavor. It's fine. It's a Smurf.
Papa Smurf went into some dark directions, didn't he?
Right. That's right. I don't know if you remember, like, season 5 of the Smurfs. It took a hard left.
He smurfed the universe.
Yeah. Before we move on to the last book, though, I do want to say thank you so much to Archdukem for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Thank you so much for doing that and for hanging out with us. All right, so the last book, as always, guys, is going to be an indie book. There are a couple of things that came out this week that I really liked. But my number one thing, and I know we've mentioned like Kingpin is going to be one of those books that is like one of our top picks of the year.
We should do an award show this year. We should have the Golden Pulleys is what we should do.
Okay, let's workshop the name, but I'm on board for that.
Yeah. When I say Golden Pulleys out loud, yeah. I think that domain might be taken.
We'll come up with something else. But I like the spirit of it 100%. But I gotta say, one of my other top picks for this year has been God Country. I love this book. I love
everything. A lot of good buzz
about this book. It's literally one of those books that, upon like reading the summary of the very first issue, I was like, I'll give this a shot. I like some of the ideas, including Alzheimer's as a driving force behind a character. But where this book has gone is someplace I couldn't have imagined. Like, I'm so attached to these characters. Literally, Emmett is someone that like I am loving the story of, like his triumphs, his failures, like his just everything about his character. The fact that he is not a true hero, you know what I mean? Like, he is not a truly good person. He is doing things for many selfish reasons.
Image does that so well, don't they, with their books?
Right? They do. But his selfish reasons are also surrounded by a desire to serve his family. So it's like this weird balancing act. Honestly, this book in particular I really enjoyed because it is told almost from the perspective of, imagine yourself sitting on the porch with an old man from the South telling you this story.
Nice.
And I adored that because, in a sense, okay, so Emmett has been going through this journey with, of course, the god sword Valifax, and the god who forged Valifax desires it to come back. Valifax, of course, abandoned him because Valifax is sentient and very powerful. But it's difficult for Valifax to like say no to a god or to their creator, but has done so. And Valifax is supposed to be an heirloom to this godly family, and right. Of course, the children of this god have been going after Emmett via the sword. Emmett himself had been suffering from Alzheimer's and was a belligerent, grumpy, angry old man towards his family, to the point where his son's wife despised him because she never got to know him before Alzheimer's.
Right. That's raw and real.
Yeah, very raw and real. Granddaughter doesn't really know this man at all, and when he comes out of this fog, he tells them he remembers everything, and like it's just like this very emotional experience. When he holds Valifax, essentially he has his memories back. Alzheimer's is cured, but they know that there's no actual solution to it. Like, there's nothing that within the godly realm that can fix that. I was like, that's messed up.
That's rough. You mean there's actual gods and magic, but nothing to cure my Alzheimer's?
Can't fix Alzheimer's. Really? I'm sorry. There's nothing we can do about that. You got the sword and you don't have it anymore, or you give up the sword and you lose your memories. And he's like, I'm never giving this sword up then.
Yeah, that's not happening. You can pry this from my cold, dead hand.
Exactly. So, last issue, he went literally to the underworld and dealt with Baelgrim, who pulls out all the stops. He takes his granddaughter there. He threatens the granddaughter. When he doesn't give up the sword, he presents him with his wife.
Oh.
And it's messed up. Like, he's just like... It's
a devil's bargain, literally.
Exactly. And for a moment, he forgets everything, drops the sword, comes back. But in this one, like the final, like not final, but like one of the older children, the last one is the god of war. He's the one who originally spoke with Emmett in the first place, trying to get him to give his sword back. He's like, no, man, it's not going to work out like that. The next time I'm here, we're going to have to fight. Like, and I don't want to do that because, like, seemingly this god of war essentially is very understanding. Like, he understands.
You wouldn't think the god of war would be understanding.
Exactly, and I kind of like that take on it. Like, he understands the responsibility of war, of the fight, of battle, what it means, what it takes.
It's a mutually assured destruction thing. Like, if I fight you, a lot of people are gonna die, and I don't want to do that if I don't have to.
And he's like, he sat and spoke with Emmett for a while. They had an actual dialogue early, like in like the first or second issue. So like, he understands this man. So like, I like that. I think that's really like cool. So like, when he comes and they fight, it's a rough battle, and for a little bit, like, again, in the description of this, they're like, all of Texas could feel this battle.
Don't make me do this, don't pull my trigger.
Exactly. But like, in the end, Emmett gets the upper hand and almost kills this man, and it's only his
Jeez.
family's like intervention that stops him.
If he kills the God of War, does he become the new God of War? Is that how it works?
No. He
Damn.
because he killed the god of the underworld. He just killed them.
Then who's watching over the underworld right now?
There's a bunch of other kids. One of them will go down there. But like that's the point. Like the God of War makes the point where he's just like, you don't understand. My father will never stop. He's like, he will send son after son after son after you, because he wants that. He's like, he will like raise the earth to get this sword back. So like.
And at what point do you put the needs of the many above the needs of the few on this one, even though no one would blame you for wanting to keep this?
Exactly. And so, like, his son, like, Emmett's son comes to him and he's just like, Dad, like, we'll just work through it. Like, you know, like, it's time to let it go. Maybe we'll get a new doctor. We'll make it happen. He's just like, I'm not giving up the sword. Are you out of your mind?
Sophie's choice with magic, man.
Right? So then he decides to go to where Valifax was forged. I'm like... So, like, I don't know where this is going to go next.
Make me a new one.
Right? I don't know. Well, no, like, Emmett goes there. Emmett has Valifax take him there. I don't know if it's to destroy the sword. I don't know if it's to... I don't even know.
Is this a mini or is this an ongoing? Because this sounds amazing.
It feels right now like it's a mini, so, like, I don't know. It's always difficult to tell, like, 100%. Like, sometimes Image will say one thing, but then it turns out to be another, or, like, you get one set of information from them and it's something else. But, like, I love this story. I kind of hope it's a mini, simply because of the fact that it will give us a beginning, middle, and end to this tale.
Maybe it's one of those things where if it does well enough, it's like, well, do you have another pitch in the tank for it?
Yeah, exactly.
What's year 2 of this story?
Right. I hope not. I really hope not, because like Emmett's story, I feel like should have a finale to it.
It's been a while since we've had a good beginning, middle, and end.
Right? Yeah, pretty much. So, if they decide to do that with this, fine. I'm okay with that. It's a great story. I can't remember I never can remember who this book is written by, and I don't know why.
Oh yeah, we do this every week, don't we?
Yeah, I'm like, who is this one by? It's by somebody. All I want is...
I'll have to check that out while I wait for Southern Bastards to come off hiatus, because that's my one indie book where I'm like, must read.
No,
this is the one.
Check this one out. It's just a strong story. You'll find that all of a sudden you're just going through the pages. It's not a short book, but like all of a sudden you're like, where's the rest of my story?
Yeah, I mean, also too, as someone who has a grandparent who was racked with Alzheimer's, I'm sure it'll probably hit me in the feels pretty deep.
Like especially early on, like in the first few issues, like definitely. In this one now, it's just the story of a warrior, and it's just so cool. So cool. Nice. Written by Donny Cates. That's who's writing this right now. So check out God Country. I feel like it has a pretty wide appeal to some degree. Because
it's got action, it's got heart.
Exactly. So just good book, a lot of fun. Also, and I haven't gotten it yet, and I have to go and find it. But this number 5 was the one that had the Spawn variants. This cover is amazing. I don't really care about Spawn, I'll be honest with you, but the Spawn variant for this, I was like, I love this. The black and white version of it is awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. Love it. But that's it, guys. So this turned out to be not as short an episode, but that's probably for the best because we got to talk in-depthly about those two very large issues along with other comics that we had. Again, a little more on the DC side for now.
It's just the way the cards fell this week. We swear we don't do it intentionally.
No, literally, we don't really, like, nobody assigns anything. It's just what you read.
If I wasn't so busy, I probably could have read Thor before we started, but then I might have had to have traded Luke Cage out, and I know people are buying Thor. I want people to buy Luke Cage.
Yeah, there you go. And that's kind of what this has turned into. We get the chance to talk about review and encourage you to buy some books that maybe aren't getting as much light put on them. So
giving back to the comic industry that gives so much to us.
Oh my God, don't they? They really do. But before we go, Joel, what is going on Cape Joel this week?
Well, if you head on over to my channel, you can see reviews of a bunch of the books we talked about this week and some we didn't. Wednesday at 8, my podcast with Matt, The Comic Multiverse, will be going up. You can listen to that. We had a good, funny one this week. And I think this week on Sunday, if you're so interested, and around Sunday night, instead of doing a regular recording of an episode, Matt and I are probably going to play some Injustice, and we're going to talk about the game and the story, because he's all up to date on the comic. I'm not, so he's being kind of my Injustice story Sherpa on this one.
That is awesome. That is very cool.
Yeah.
So that's over on Cape Joel. You can head over there, check it out, hang out. It'd be awesome. Over on Comic Pop. This is kind of a weird week, guys. If you were there, missed Elseworlds Exchange yesterday. Sal was not feeling very well. Didn't feel like he would put on a very good show, so he let that go. But instead released back issues, Guardians of the Galaxy and the X-Men Trial of Jean Grey. The guys had a lot of fun with this one. I know Ethan had many questions about this whole thing, especially with the time travel elements to it. So, you know.
The story that made me quit X-Men in the Bendis years. That was the one. I'm like, oh, good. Let me relive this one.
That was it. So, of course, that was the one that they decided to do regarding Guardians of the Galaxy and X-Men. Oh, it's like a twofer, guys. It's like a twofer. Come on. And, of course, on Off the Rack, we did Batman. Who's the Batman All-Star Batman book that came out. But that was kind of it for this week. I think there will be a letters page that comes out at the end of the week. But next week, definitely be on the lookout for some special stuff that's going on. Some things.
I think I know. If you watch their Instagram and Twitter page, I think you'll know.
Yeah, like honestly, guys, like there's gonna be some stuff that is definitely not normal to the channel, or at least an individual who is not. So it'll be exciting. I don't want to give it away because Sal hasn't done anything yet for that, but otherwise I would totally just spoil it and ruin it for everybody. But that's kind of it, guys. Don't forget, of course, to check us out over on SoundCloud. The poll has its own account over there. You can check it out.
Let's link that in the chat before we go, actually, because I know people were asking for that.
Oh, all right. Now I gotta go find it.
I'll bamp for time. I know people in the YouTube version of this, which you can find over on the Weekly Poll Archive and bonus channel, people were saying, why isn't this on iTunes anymore? And I'm like, well, we have a SoundCloud and we have this too. The poll's all grown up. We're moving out of the Weekly Poll's basement. We're doing our own thing. We got our own space.
It is, and I think it might be over there. I think Danielle mentioned it was. She says it takes like 24 hours, though, for it to update.
Right.
So there is like a time delay. But here, guys, here's the SoundCloud link just for the poll. So if you're looking for that, you missed out on the most recent poll or the poll from last week, you can find it all right there. Just the poll, not the weekly poll, that it's on its own thing. There's also the Discord. Whoever has the link for that, mods, put it on in there. You can come on out and hang out with the weekly poll members over there, chat with them, talk with the community, hang out. Also, of course, Comic Pop has its own Discord. There's all kinds of Discords happening. You chat with people, talk with people.
I don't have a Discord because it confuses me.
That's fair.
I'll be on Discord more. I know I keep promising. It'll be easier when I'm not on 5 podcasts in a week. I think someone joked in the comment section there saying, geez, if Joel isn't on camera at least once every day, he'll shrivel and die.
I think that's true.
I have an addiction. I have a real podcast problem, and you're all enabling me.
It's very true, guys. We're enablers. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
I got podcast demons. I got the podcast monkey on my back.
That's exactly it. There you go.
Chasing that podcast dragon, but you never catch the dragon.
You're never gonna catch it, Joel. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Oh, here we go. All right, so if somebody has the weekly poll one, I'm gonna put the Comic Pop one in. This is Comic Pop Discord. And, because I don't know, did anybody do that yet? No? What happened, mods? Make me doing all the work over here.
Yeah, but where's Mopey? He's usually right on top of this sort of thing. Usually we don't even have to say it. Usually he just does it.
There we go.
So the chat's saying, don't worry, you'll catch that dragon one day, Joel.
You won't, man. I'm sorry. So don't forget, again, there's lots of other places you can check us out and hang out with us. And don't forget to come back on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for the weekly poll to talk about all the comic book news that came out for the week, or all kinds of comic book movie stuff, or whatever is going on in the comic book world.
Yeah.
It'll be there hanging out. And then return on Thursday to talk about the comics that came out on Wednesday. Again, thanks, Joel, for hanging out with us. Again, kind of weird, it's just the two of us, but I think it went pretty well. So next week we'll be back, probably with full cast, and we'll see you guys then. But have a great weekend, and have fun reading your comics. Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.